I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Real pleasure to be able to speak to you.
Likewise.
Maybe you could just kick us off with a brief introduction to the film, Blacks Can't Swim, the sequel.
The sequel. So, Blacks Can't Swim, the sequel. The first one was a film called Blacks Can't Swim, and that was my personal journey, what held me back from swimming, and interviews by various different people within the community about their personal journey and why they swim or why they don't swim. The sequel was created basically to hear the voices of the younger generation, because you probably hear the figures, 95% of Black adults and 80% of Black children in England do not swim. I'm sure the world wanted to hear why these people do not swim, why we do not swim, why swimming is alien to our community. And that's what the film basically dictates. This was what the film highlights. There's a storyline. So basically in the sequel, it's based on two young adults from a council estate who join a community center for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. It's basically there to give them a better, better outlook in life, a better, shall I say, more opportunities. But one of the programs that they have to do is swimming, and they just don't want to do it. And they, even though they say they can swim, they just don't want to get into the water. So I'm drafted in to come and be a mentor to them and try and get them to swim. And it shows the challenges and the reasons and all that kind of things why they do not want to swim. And it's also has interviews from various different people within the community on their stories and their personal stories. Some of them are actually very emotional, and as to why they do not swim and the challenges they have been experiencing.
And to take a step back, maybe you can just tell us a bit about how this whole thing kind of started, because it's sort of, there's a few steps that took place before this film. When was it you're on holiday in Barbados and you were first thinking about the issue?
Well, it started long before then. It started when I think I blame my mother. Well, I blamed her in the film called Blacks Can't Swim. When I was creating the film, I asked my mom to be in it. She said, "No, I don't want to be in the film." I said, "Listen, mom, it's because of you that I do not swim. You're not going to be in that film." So we worked out a compromise. The first voice you hear in it is my mom's. So I never learned how to swim, and from my childhood, I never did. And when it came to the age when I grew up, in my 20s, 30s, 40s, anybody asked me, "Can you swim?" I just say no. I'm Black, and you've had issues with Black people and swimming based on this the stigmas and the heavy bones and all that kind of thing. I can't swim because I've got heavy bones, and I hid behind those stereotypes. You see, and society told me that I can't swim because everywhere I go, I hear it that Black people cannot swim, and that's why you have Mr. Society in the film saying Black people cannot swim. It's the voice of society telling me that I can't swim, and rightly or wrongly for believing that stereotype, that's out for but I did, and I listened to it, and I didn't swim. So it's my daughter, when she grew to the age whereby I knew because she started learning at an early age, and I kept on bugging my mind that if anything ever happened to her and she fell in water and I was there and I couldn't help her, I don't think I would ever be able to forgive myself, and that was the driving force. Barbados, we went on holiday in Barbados 2018, August, and there was a few friends, my family, my wife, my daughter, and a few friends, and we were on a boat, and
Can you still hear me?
I'm here. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought the things. What do you call it? A screen came up and no. Sorry about that. Yeah.
That's all right. All right.
Yeah. So So yeah, so we're on the boat, and they gave us a life jackets. I had my life jacket on. Everyone had theirs on. Then the boat started moving. Everyone took theirs off, and I just kept mine on.
Mm.
And one of my friends said, "Why don't you take a picture in your life jacket, and you can use that as one of your album covers, because I make music, as you can see in the background." And so I said, "Why would I make a song about with my life jacket, wearing a life jacket, unless of course the song had something to do with swimming?" Then I knew about the disproportionate amount of Black people that do not swim. So I said to myself, okay, let me make a song asking someone to make a film about it. So we need to have a film, a documentary, or something about it. So I sang the song, make a film called Blacks Can't Swim, and came back to the UK, and I just put the song out. Then I was contacted by an organization called Swimming Nature, and they said, we want to teach you how to swim. We heard the song, we like the song, we want to teach you how to swim, and we'll teach you how to swim for free. And I was like, okay, that sounds a bit suspect. Why does anybody want to do anything for free? What's in it for them? and they said they're aware of the issue, but because of the sensitivity around it, they just want to talk about it. And then I've talked about it, So basically, they want to work with me on it, and they will teach me how to swim, and they want to prove to the world that it's not a physical thing; it's a cultural thing. Because in the song, I asked, "Is it a physical or cultural physical thing?" And they said they want to prove to the world that it's actually a cultural thing, not a physical thing. So I said, oh, okay, fair enough. But right about that time, another friend of mine said to me, "You have made a song asking somebody to make a film about the issue of swimming within the Black community. Why don't you make that film?" I've never made a film in my life, but I've made music videos. So I asked Mr. X, who does a lot of my music videos, I said, I want to make a film. And there was a nervous, shall I say, silence for a few seconds. Then he came back and said, "Film?" I said, "Yeah, I'll make a film." And then I told him the story about the swimming and all that kind of thing, or the lack of swimming in my life. And I want to make a story based on my journey. And one thing led to another. A film called Blacks Can't Swim was born.
And were you surprised when you started thinking about the topic that it's one of these things that actually I've never seen another film or any documentary or anything really tackling? Is it one of these kind of unspoken things? Did you realize that, actually this is not something people talk about?
So I did some research. So the first and foremost, when I first came up with the idea, I started doing some research to see whether somebody else has done it and how they've done it and things like that. I found a few documentaries here and there, but they were standalone documentaries. Like there was a 5-minute documentary here, half an hour, but many of them were humorous. There was a lot of humorous ones. And then there were a few serious documentaries. But what I found in the documentaries were that they were done mainly by people within the swim industry, within the swim sector. And mainly the people that were talking about it, the people that were making these documentaries could swim. And that's what differentiates that from a film called Blacks Can't Swim. Because when I did a film called Blacks Can't Swim, the people that were in it were everyday people, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be everyday people, so that people we could communicate with, the 95% of Black adults that do not swim, they could relate to it. So that's why I didn't want to have any. Well, at the time I was making a film called Blacks Can't Swim, I couldn't have any professionals in there because I didn't know any professionals. But when I was doing the sequel, I made sure that I kept on the same formula. I kept it to people who are not professionals. The only professional in there is probably Professor Splash, who I popped in. So yes, and he was just on this for a few seconds, but not even in an official capacity. And so so there are documentaries out there, but there are a lot of documentaries, or shall I say, the few documentaries I saw, they're mainly done by people within the sector, telling people that you should swim because of this, that, and the other reason. But that does not connect, because it's a person who is not swimming, a person who has a fear of water, a person doesn't live in that kind of environment, is not going to watch a film like that, because it doesn't speak to him. And that's why I stayed away from that with my films.
And I was also wondering, to what extent do you see the issue? You know, in some ways you could see this as quite kind of a niche topic, you know, it's just specifically about swimming. But how much do you think it also hits upon actually lots of kind of broader stereotypes, you know, racist stereotypes? And, you know, it's hitting upon things that are broader societal issues, actually, but through
Yeah,
the
yeah,
lens of, you know,
yeah.
people wanting to swim.
So firstly, swimming may sound like a niche, but it's not. Because I think now, I know that swimming is one of the very few subjects that you can go and speak to anyone about, and everyone has a story. Whether they know it or not, everyone's got a story. If they can't swim, why can't you swim? What happened? You know, and if you can't swim, what age did you learn how to swim? How did it happen? Who took you swimming? And that kind of thing. So there's always, and that's what I've found since the film. Every single person has a story to some degree. To answer your question, yes, because there's a reason why the community does not swim, and it's historical. And then this is a generation-long issue. I mean, if you're speaking to somebody in America, then they have a different story. You know, they relate to what happens in the UK, but they have an additional. They have they were deprived. They were kept away. They were not allowed to get into the pools. Up until I think up until the 60s, and even part of the 70s, Black people were not allowed to use certain pools and things like that. So there was a lot of racism in the midst. So it does open up a lot of questions. The reason why we started the Black Swimming, I'm a co-founder of the Black Swimming Association. The reason why we started that organization was because at the top level, where policies are being made to do with aquatics and swimming, where programs are being designed, there was no representation for the Black and Asian community. So hence the reason why it didn't transcend down to the community, because there's a big divide, there's a big gap between the swim sector and the communities. And that's why we set up an organization to bridge that gap. And if there's no one at the top of it, shall I say, and no one at the seat of the table, there's no representation of the seat of the table where these programs are being designed, then it's never going to go down to the community. And hence the reason why we have an issue. So I hope that answers that question.
Mm. And, you know, I really love all the real spectrum of voices you have in the film. And there's a great tone, I think, to a lot of those interviews where even when, you know, so there's some quite traumatizing stories that come out there, but a lot of it is also, you know, explained with some levity, some humor. So how did you kind of go about collecting those interviews? And was that kind of a great part of the process, like meeting such a range of amazing young people and hearing, you know, you get a bit of their personality, don't you, as they're saying their specific anecdotes?
That was very, very important. The personality. It's not necessarily just what they had to say, is how they were saying it, because that's what people relate to. And basically what we were trying to do is trying to get the message heard. We're trying to make a conversation which previously was very uncomfortable to have, easy to have. When I first called the film Blacks Can't Swim, I knew I would come under attack. And I did come under attack from both Blacks and whites, and from all nations. But I explained to people that when I say Blacks Can't Swim, I'm talking about what kept me away from swimming. So that's my, so I'm not saying no Black person can swim. I'm just saying that's the issue that's held me back. And so going back to what you were saying, it was very, very important that the story was heard from people who could voice it out in a way that would make everybody want to watch it, and hence, therefore, keep the conversation going.
And, you know, there's quite a few themes that kind of come out from all of these different stories. You know, some it's kind of down to, you know, each individual, maybe they have a condition or something like that that's preventing them from, you know, being able to participate. But then, like, a lot of things come up about hair, about skin, about not feeling comfortable in their peer group, you know, maybe they feel the odd one out. So, you know, what do you think were some of the main themes that came out for you that were like common amongst the interviewees?
by saying that I'm going to give the film away and nobody's going
Oh
to go
yeah.
and watch it because I've told everything. I've said everything. Sarah, what are you trying to do to me?
You've been trying to give a tease, give a tease.
But you know the main one, the hair. The hair is very important because Black women spend so much money and time and effort and pride in their hair. And if they go by going swimming, the chlorine is going to damage their hair. They're not going to go. And if they don't go swimming, they're not taking their children swimming. So therefore, it's, you know, the cycle continues. Then there's the fear. Then there's actually the fear of water. And then I coined the word blackophobia, as you can hear, because I see it as fear of water in a Black person is sometimes usually different from a fear of water in other nationality, or basically other white people, you know, especially white people, because within the white community, all my friends who are white, many of them can't swim, but those that can swim, it's because of a specific issue. There's something that actually happened. When they were young, they fell in the water. So there's something that's kept them away from. But you tend to find that a lot of Black people, there's a fear of water, but they can't place their finger on why there's the fear of water. And it's because it's historical. You know, so basically, you can have this kind of phobia without even knowing that you have a phobia, because you don't go anywhere near the water. You don't even know that you're scared of water, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
And I also thought it was interesting that it came out about not having any role models. You know, in lots of other sports, you know, there's these key figures that everybody would know, you know, real household names. And also, you know, people to make it cool, you know. So if you think that was a big issue, and if you could choose someone from popular culture, perhaps, who would be, you know, would it be Stormzy or someone like that? Who do we need to go out and?
Stormzy that name always comes up. So yeah, I'm sure Stormzy is going to hear it at some point and come and tell us whether he can swim or whether he does swim or he doesn't, or that kind of thing. But yeah, but that will make such a difference, because people start seeing someone like them swimming. It makes such a difference. It makes you feel that, oh yeah, they can do it, I can do it as well. So that's why I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm putting everything on the line, that hoping that Alice actually qualifies and gets through to the Olympics. Because if Alice Deering gets through to the Olympics, it's going to inspire a lot of people, and that can change the narrative. Another thing that I've been screaming at the national governing bodies about is we need to change how we address swimming. So, because up until now, we talk about swimming as a life skill. You got to know how to swim. You got to learn how to swim, because if you don't learn how to swim, something's going to happen to you. So it's very important, which is all true. But if I'm hearing this, I'm saying, okay, you're telling me all these things about swimming, about water. I'm scared. I'm going to stay away. And therefore, it takes us back to exactly where we are right now. What we need to do is make it fun, make it exciting, make it interesting, make it relatable. People will want to do it. Then when people start doing it, then we start talking to them about the water safety element of it, the drowning prevention. But first and foremost, we need to get them interested and excited about it. So we need to make it fun.
And kind of leading on from that, then, you know, what do you hope the impact of your film will be? I guess, you know, for people to enjoy watching it, but also perhaps that it will start a conversation and highlight the issue, you know, and put it in people's minds more.
Let's talk about it. That's it. Let's have that conversation. The more we talk about it, the more we normalize it, the easier it will become for us to do it. You know, it's like I say, it's not going to happen overnight, but I strongly believe that this is the beginning of the end of the disproportionate amount of Black people that do not swim.
Do you see, from having spoken to kind of the next generation, if you like, do you hope that you're seeing a bit of a shift? Do you have some optimism that you know things are going to change?
Yes. It's and I probably you probably heard it before, but I'll say it again. When we were shooting the end of the sequel, there was a swimming scene that had to happen. Up until then, nothing. There wasn't any swimming. It was just basically the film talking about it and that kind of thing, basically dry swimming. So I told the cast that we need to get into the pool. I'm booking the pool, and there was a lot of resistance. So they said, "No, we don't want to get into the pool. We don't want to go and do it. This is not part of. You didn't tell us this." So I said, "Just calm down. We will get you." Speedo has brought a whole heap of kits. Tell us what your sizes are. We'll go there and we will swim. We don't even need to swim. We're just getting into the pool because I had a thing to do. I had, something to. I had to be done in the pool. So this was about 10, 11, 12 people. So they came there very reluctantly. But what me, Mr. X and myself, and the film director did was we had music playing. We had people doing their hair. We had, it was exciting, that kind of thing. So people got into the mood and all that kind of thing. So they finally got into the pool. And then we did a scene and I left. Then about half an hour later, I get a call from the director saying, "Is there any way you could call reception and try and get an extended half an hour or something like that?" And I'm like, "Hold on, are we running behind schedule?" And he goes, nah, they're having so much fun in the water. They don't want to come out. They're splashing around and all that kind. They're really enjoying it. So you see, make it fun, people will swim.
And how do you see kind of in the sort of broader film industry, if you like, do you think that we're also seeing a shift where more films like yours, where you're putting Black voices front and center, and also, speaking to that real broad spectrum of young people? Do you think that we're seeing more opportunities for those voices to come through? Because it's not something that has happened that often in the past. I was thinking that just watching it, like just hearing, from the horse's mouth kind of thing, how people in that community feel about a certain issue.
Authentic. That's why I wanted to keep it authentic. And that's why I didn't use actors in the film. Not using actors, not using professional actors has its own disadvantages, but I was prepared to risk that because I wanted it to be like everyday people. I'm an everyday person. I'm a second. This is the second time I produce a film. I never went to film school. So someone called me, and I'm an accidental filmmaker. I'll take that because I'm just telling a story. I'm just saying it how it is. I'm just bringing the reality, to the masses. So yes, hopefully there'll be a lot more of these in the future. Of a lot more people talking about real life issues, in the format that a film called Black Councilman and the sequel have portrayed them.
And obviously, hopefully, restrictions are lifting this summer. Do you think that it'll be, people might be able to sit in a room together and watch it finally, rather than just being digital?
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. We originally, what we wanted to do was to have a few cinemas showing it, but because of the lockdown and the guidelines and things like that, we said we'll just stick it. We'll just leave it to online. So hence the reason why it's available on Sky Store, Apple TV, Google, and YouTube, Vimeo, and such. So, but I'm hoping families will be able to sit down together and enjoy it. So that's the most important thing. There's the message in it. There's people telling their stories, but first and foremost, people have to enjoy it.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me and for making this really insightful documentary with dramatization as well.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
Cheers.
Have a lovely evening. See you.
You too.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.